Okay, so quick video. So the last Bible study I had at church was on the last two sections of Luke 10. That is the Good Samaritan parable and when Mary and Martha are hosting Jesus. Okay, and so they're back to back, so we were addressing them as if they were related. First, we dealt with the Good Samaritan, and we talked about that, and then we went to Mary and Martha, and presumably Lazarus may have been there, the same household, because they were siblings. There were two issues. There was one issue that we kind of couldn't really understand. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, Jesus uses a priest and a Levite to show sort of the opposite of being a good neighbor. The priest and the Levite passed this guy who was half dead on the wayside, beaten up and robbed. And he could have picked any number of characters, but he picked those. And the puzzling part is the priest and the Levite wouldn't have been expected to go near anything dead or presumed to be dead. I mean, this guy could have been so far gone, you wouldn't be able to tell if he was alive or dead. I mean, that's the implication. So a priest and a Levite, so the priest obviously works directly with the temple, and a Levite would be like the support staff. If he wasn't a priest, he would be support staff dealing with the temple on a regular basis. So if you touched something dead and defiled yourself and became ceremonially unclean, that's like calling into work and saying, I'm going to be gone for the week, or whatever the regimented time was to become clean again. Not only would you not be available to go do your function, I believe there was rules about having to even to live away from your main dwelling place so you didn't contaminate your family and your dwelling place. So, I mean, it was a huge deal becoming unclean. So they didn't do anything wrong. Culturally, according to the law, according to the norm, they passed by because they were supposed to pass by. Now, they could have called for help. They could have had somebody else, with maybe a less requirement, or maybe somebody who would be less inconvenienced by becoming unclean, go examine the body. But maybe there was nobody around. Maybe, they obviously weren't acting out of compassion. I think that's the main point. But in a sense, Jesus is using these characters who had legitimate reasons for not checking a body on the road, and saying that the person who was the neighbor was the Samaritan. So there's a huge contrast there, and it's puzzling. It's puzzling because the Levite and the priest were actually within the norms, even according to the Levitical law, of what was expected. Now, Jesus always loves flipping things upside down. It's so cool to get a glimpse about how messed up our thinking is, and just like with God, according to us, everything's always upside down. Okay, now let's go to the next passage. Mary and Martha. Martha invites Jesus into the house and begins preparing the food and serving Jesus in the kitchen and whatever needs to be done. And Mary's sitting at the feet of Jesus listening to him. Again, this is like Jesus comments that Mary's doing the thing that is better than what Martha's doing. But Martha's doing what's expected culturally. She's the host. She's preparing. She's serving. She's doing what is honorable for her guest culturally. I mean, it's just, in what she's doing is not bad. Okay, it's expected. It's normal. It not only was she obligated to be, her role as a host, as a woman, She was expected to do these things. And Jesus said that what she was doing was not nearly as good as what Mary was doing, which was just listening, not serving. Okay. So these two things we kept going back and forth about. Like, what's the bigger picture here? And something Cliff told me like over a year ago is always look for the unseen in a passage in the Bible, because there's always going to be a duality. There's going to be a surface layer of the obvious, the seen, and the unseen. So I started thinking about that, and the class is chatting, and I keep thinking about it, and it struck me. Jesus sees and deals in two realities: the surface, the physical reality, and the spiritual reality. You know, he was fully human and fully God, so he had a pretty good understanding of both. The priest and the Levite and Martha were all doing the right thing that they should have been doing if you're only talking about the physical, the seen realm, right? In the seen realm, in the physical reality, the laws of custom, tradition, religious laws, political laws, all these things are established. But the second layer is the layer of the unseen, the realm that Jesus was always trying to exalt and bring people's attention to. That's why he always clashed with the culture. That's why he was always stepping on people's toes. Jesus' life was full of conflict, not because he was trying to create fights with people, but because he was trying to wake people up to the realm of the unseen. The priest and the Levite were doing the right thing according to their roles in the physical realm, but in the spiritual realm, they had no compassion, they weren't showing love, and all the rules that they were obeying are based, the foundation of all the commands in the Old Testament, they're all based on God's character and love. And so what Jesus is saying is, everything in the Old Testament, the foundation is love. So he's trying to wake people up to the idea that the foundation is more important than what's built on top of it. If you can show compassion and love, and that just happens to break a law, or just happens to, you know, break a cultural norm or whatever, show love first. Be mindful of love and compassion first before you think about what's culturally acceptable or the religious laws or whatever. I don't, you know. And the same thing with Mary and Martha. Jesus is saying, Mary is showing more love and compassion to Jesus by listening, and the knowledge that she's gaining by sitting at his feet is more valuable, and it's something that she can take with her throughout her life and into eternity. And what Martha is doing is fine and acceptable, but it's definitely not the best. It's only on the surface where Martha is, and Mary is delving deep into the spiritual. I just thought that was really cool. Just another reminder that when we're reading the Bible, we should always, always, always take it slow. Look for the hidden realm, the unseen. What's really going beyond the curtain, you know, of just a simple reading. Digging deep is so much more fun than just reading. Yeah, I just had to share that with you guys. I mean, that's pretty simple, but it's just a really great reminder.